So we should try and go through them. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share my screen with you. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the last time I think we were able to we've talked about the process. Okay, because what the main understanding is that anytime you are running a program, there's a process that go behind the whole thing. Okay, so if I check my system, you could see that all the files that I've opened is at the utility side is going through, and each file that you open consume memory. If you check, you could see the memory, and then the processor that is also the speed is consuming. So if I open here, let's say I have here, and I go to my task manager, you could see all the files that I'm using. So background, so these are background. So you could see the background files. Now I just open this one. So that's what you see here. And then I have my WhatsApp here. Okay. So these ones are currently I'm using them. So you could see here. And then the background, those that I'm not using, but they are also consuming. So you could see that these are all consuming. Okay, so now you see all those information here and the memory that they are consuming. So you can see I have Mozilla Firefox, and that one that is consuming more. Okay, it's consuming more of my memory. Okay, so you can see now in my system, I've consumed like 89% of my memory. Okay, so sometimes when you do a lot of open a lot of files, or you are doing a lot of things, you realize that your system sometimes can freeze, meaning that maybe you consume almost all your memory, and it's your memory that helps your system be fast, because your memory need um, help the system resources to also get some form of what information from your operating system. So when you use more of your memory, then you deprive the system resources the memory to use. So sometimes your system will freeze, or either you close some of the applications. Okay, so all these are processes. You can see processes. So we have sub processes that go beyond. So now, once you want to develop a system, or you want to build a platform, you need to really understand the system architecture. Okay. So for now, most of the things you see here, this is what we started talking about. So everything that I'm trying to explain to is for us to understand the environment in which we are using. Okay. So yesterday, I think Friday, I made mention of this one to you. This, okay, and then I hope do you remember the explanation I gave here concerning this? Do you remember?
No, please.
Here's the table. So what I we are saying is that when you open a file, let's say you've created a file, let's say Windows, sometimes you realize that when you open maybe a Word document, it will tell you read only, if maybe you've noticed it. Sometimes to tell you read only means that you cannot edit anything from the document. You can only read. Okay, so that is the right that has been given. So maybe you create a file, and the file that you've created is just read only file. It means that you can only read the file, you cannot edit. And sometimes you can say execute. If you have the right to execute, means that you can run that file. So if you don't have the right, sometimes you realize that if you want to install some application, you have to right click and use system administrator. So the system administrator has the full right to install anything. Okay, so that you'll be able to get the full right. Okay, that is Windows. Now here you could see that 000. So this is the binary 000. And what does this mean? Here it means that read is true, write is true, and then execute is true. It means that when you have this binary, it means that you can read a file, write a file, execute a file. Okay. Now execute a
Please,
file
what?
means that
Yeah, you were about. It's the same thing I was going to ask you. Explaining it.
now execute a file means that you have maybe install file. Let's say I have installed a software to install. Now to install that document means that you are executing that file. Okay, so that file will be installed in your system. So when you don't have that right, it means that you cannot install any file, okay, in your system, or any kind of utility program in your system. Okay, now the right means that you can create a document. So if I have the right to create, maybe it can be a text file, it can be a word file, or whatever file that you are talking. It means that you can write, mean that you can create a file. Now read means that already file that has been created, you can only read, but then you cannot alter it. Okay, so when you have the right means that you can write. I think when we started, we went through file creation, and then we saw how to create a file, and then how to read a file with the open function. Do you remember?
Yeah.
With open function. Okay, so it's the same thing. So when you have the function to read, then you can read, and you realize that I told you we use the W to write. Okay, so this what you see here is basically for unit system. This one are for if you are using the unit system, that's what you can use this. This is not applicable in Windows environment. Okay, so Windows environment, this one is not applicable. But just for you to get the understanding of how this thing works. Okay, so once you understand all this architecture, you will now know that okay, this is how the whole thing works. Okay, so if I'm going to use, let's say, Windows, okay, this code will not work for me because unmarked is not there. You will get unmarked from Windows, but then import OS is already there on Windows that we can use. Okay, so these are some of the things I really want you to take note of. Okay, once you get the basic understanding of all these things, the rest we will just build on it. Okay, so we are just going to build on all these informations, okay, that we have here. Now I want us to look at something here. Now, how does all this thing that we are talking about, how does it work? Okay, so I told you that the marks here, as you see here, it comes with the binary number. So you can see here there's a binary representation of this number here, which you get 11111. It's a binary number. And what does it do? You set a permission to a file. So now when you see the 11111, means that your permission is set to false. Okay, which when you get something false, means that you don't have the right to do anything there. Okay, and when you get 0000000, then it means that your permission is set to what? True. Okay, so by extension, we can use, we know that if I have a decimal number like maybe 18, and by calling bin function, what I do? The bin is for a binary representation function that can convert a decimal to a binary. Okay, so when you place this one inside your bin, it's going to convert it to a binary file for you, which we actually we went through that. Okay, so you know how to convert, but then we didn't use the bin function. We actually go straight to really understand how to convert from each data type to another. But then you can also use it easily by just using the bin function to just convert it, okay, instead of you going through what we did. But the approach is, once you understand that better, I think you appreciate whatever information that comes out. Okay, so that is you get from this far. Okay, so but then we are not going to use the unmarks. Okay, we are not going to use the unmarks. So by just for you to understand all these processes, if for instance any one of you is using maybe Mac or any of the Unix platform like Ubuntu or any or Linux kernel, then this one will work for you. So if maybe you can try your hands in them, then see how these ones work. Okay, but for us, we are using the Windows platform. Okay, so now if we are using the Windows platform, now the Windows platform deal with what we call system. So if in Windows you want to get system resources, we use this module called 6, as you can see here, 6 module. Okay, so the 6 module will actually get a lot of information for you. So maybe you want to know the platform that you are using. For instance, I want to know the platform that I'm using in Windows. So to be able to get the platform, you can get with sys.platform attributes. So sys.platform attributes will tell you the kind of Windows operating system that you are using. So here is going to actually give us the information that we need. Now you can also use os.name. So os.name can also give you the information that you want. So if I use os.name, that is also going to give me the operating system that I'm using. So it could be for NT or stuff. Okay, so now for example, if Windows is reported as Win32 rather than NT or C, okay, now NT is mostly for Windows. We call this one, anytime you see NT is mean new technology. Okay, so for Windows, you know, Windows started with DOS operating system. Okay, so from 90s, Windows, Microsoft introduced this one, the new technology, where now Windows were having a graphical interface. Okay, before it was DOS. DOS means that the command prompt. So everything was in command prompt. So when they now migrated to the NT, which is the new technology, and then that has that kind of utility services that attach to it. So Python actually is using, so originally Python started with that. So anytime you test Python, now it doesn't mean that now maybe when you check, you will see that the system that you are running, maybe your operating system is maybe 64 bits, but when you check, you realize that you see something like 32 bits. So ask yourself, why is it 32 bit? But meanwhile, I'm using 64 bits. The understanding is that Python started with the 32 bits, Okay, so the original Python application, the kernel, everything was written using the 32-bit operating system. So even though now technology has evolved to 64-bit operating system and alike, but the core Python kernel is still 32, and the developers decided to preserve that, not to change it to maybe 64 bits. If that sometimes you may break some of your files and stuff, so you may have inconsistency of data. So these are the reasons why when we check, you will see that we still have this 32. Okay, so that is the main reason why you may see that. Okay, and if you are using the Unix operating system, that is where you may use what the on name. Okay, and that will provide a slightly more details than what you get from the Windows. Like I said, Windows sometimes prevent you from getting certain information, but when we move on to Linux, it makes those information very clear to us. Okay, so we will go into details and we try to get the understanding of everything. Okay, now we have other information here which says that now for every snippet information that often useful, we collect the size of the user information and everything. Now we can also use the subtool here to get all the information from your. Okay, so maybe if I want to get the information, the terminal information, the size and everything, you could still use that one to get that. Okay, get all those information. So now all these ones, let's see how we could actually practice some of this code in our system. For now, we already know how to import OS and the likes. Okay, so whatever that we are going to do, it's not going to be difficult. Okay, so now I will open my machine here. Now let's look at um, let's look at I have okay. So now you could see that if I have OS. Now this is what we already know. Okay, so now when you import OS like this one, for this, if maybe we are even using our command prompt, we can just import OS. Okay, so here I could just say import OS, which I've done it down there to import OS. So now you could use the OS to call for the name. So you can see that here os.name, and you realize that it came as what? Empty. So it tells you that the operating system that we're actually using, but empty it might sound something like you may not get a real understanding what is the NT, and which I've already explained to you that NT simply means the new technology, and it's based on the Windows 90s. Okay, from the Windows from 90s. After the DOS, the new one that came was the graphical interface. So that is what this one simply means. Okay. Now, if I want to get exactly the kernel what I'm using, okay, so now you can use the system. So what are the systems? So system.platform. So what platform? So you want to know the operating system actually that your machine, the Python is using. So when you do this, and this one will give you the 32-bit, and have explained to you that it's 32-bit, not necessarily that your system is of 32 bits. No, because Python originally was developed using the 32 bits before the 64-bit came, but because they want the consistency, they don't want to break some of the system files and stuff. so they still maintain the 32 bits, even though most of the machines now currently is using 64-bit operating system, but Python still maintain that. Okay, that's why you see the 32 bits. So this tells you that Python is using 32 bits in your system. Okay, so this actually give us access to the utility, whatever that we have. And like I said, when it comes to a name basically is for the unit based OS. Okay, so this is the unit based OS and it's different from whatever that we are doing. Now we want to get the terminal size. So I want to get the size of the terminal and stuff. So in the same way, we need to import the subtool.get terminal size, and this is going to get us the column and everything from here. Okay, so if we run this program like the way that we are seeing here, what happened is now you could see here that it just throws some error here because of I just ran this code more than, so let me clear here, come here, run it once. Now you could see that here I'm having OS. So now my OS name is empty. So you could see here empty. Now the platform. So the platform is what? Windows 32. So you could see here that is Windows 32. That tells me that the Python is using the Windows 32. Okay, and the terminal weight. So my terminal weight here, as you could see here, my terminal, the weight is 80, and then the height is 24. So that is the terminal what I'm using currently here. So you can see that the weight is 80 and the height is 24. Okay, so this actually is what Python is giving you based on the information that we just captured here. So when you have this, it just give you the clear understanding of what exactly that we are actually doing, and then what you can use the platform to do. So if maybe you want to develop on Windows, then you need to really understand the Windows architecture, know how Windows everything is being structured. Okay, so if that is clear to you, so once this one, we are not actually using the Linux stuff, so you may not get this one because there's a condition there. Okay, so let's see here. Now the next thing that I want us to consider is, now that we already know some of these things, how to pull information, how to get data from this, we can also look at getting some of the utility programs that we already know. So for instance, as we know, I did show you that if maybe you want to read a file, you already know that you can create a file. So I just told you about the read only, write, and then execute. And I made mention of that is not for Windows platform. So if you are using the Windows platform and then you want to actually create a file. Okay, so to create a file, that can be a file which is only read only. So now you could see that these are some of the modules that you could get from start. So this start actually is going to give us the permission to get all this one, and we know that the OS is what it will help us to do, to write. So OS will going to help us to write, and then the permission, so we are going to get from chmod. Okay, this is the permission that we are going to get from this. Okay, so to be able to get in details of this, now that we have this thing, we could also put this one into help. So if I come down there, So we are working with our terminal. So when I type start, now once you touch on the start here, sorry, I need to import it first. So import start. So now I could use my help. So now you could see something here. You could see something here. So now these are the permissions that we have here. So now you could see here we have the start model. Okay, so start is a constant function for interpreting results on OS start and OS L starts. Okay, so here you could see down there the description of what the models reference are. Okay, so this gives us the documentations of what exactly that we could use. Okay, and then the suggestion. So for instance, if I want to use all the models that come from start, then here you could use the star. So the star here means that it's going to pull all the models. Okay, all the models from what? The start. Okay, now you could see s underscore lfnt. So what does it do? This return the portion of the file mode that describe the file type. Okay, then you could see here this one I mode, which one this portion file also that can be set for OS mode. Okay, but where I want us to go is where currently I just pick information what we are using. So now if you go there, you could see there are lots of them. Now you could see here file mode. So now this is the file mode. What does it mean? To convert a file mode to a string. So from now you could see that we have here RWSR. So this one means read, write, execute. That is the first one. Then the next one is what? Read, write, execute. Read, write, execute. So these are for the user, okay, the end user and stuff. So you could see that these are the rights that I was talking about. So file mode. So now you could see here these are the rights that we have. So now you could see here there are some numbers attached to see the data. So you could see all these data here, encrypted data and all those information. So these are utility information that you can use to actually secure your file. Okay, so you could see here the size, st size and all those ones there. There are a lot of them. Okay, so there are a lot of them. So this is where you could see. So now you check here, you see that I'm using the s underscore what? Read. That gives me that this file can only be read. Okay, and then I have s what underscore what? iw what? Write. So this one will give us the permission just to write. Okay, these are just modules that has already been written that we are just making use of. Okay, so now let me see if I can get what I'm using here. I think this a platform where it couldn't bring all of them, but uh, this is the understanding that I want you to get. So all these ones are part of it. Okay, so now if we see the SIW, so that will be for the read. Okay, that will be for the read only. Let's see if I can use the PowerShell. Okay, so let's see. S-link, Boolean. Okay, so now you could see that we have some of the numbers that we have here. Maybe hidden far. You could see that the hidden far is attribute to 2. Now you could see here attribute a file device. Then you could see archive is for 32. Okay, you could see attribute for there's the normal file. Okay, a directory is attribute to 16. Okay, that is the integer value. Okay, so what that I want us to just notice the function that we can use to be able to do what we are actually doing. So now if I have the start, now I could use this one to call for this value. So it means that when you create this file can be written when you create with this. Okay, but here this file can only be read. It means that you cannot alter this file, you cannot change any information from this file. Okay, so that's what this actually means. Okay, I hope it's clear.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay, so now we have, for any time you be using this thing, you may have your system variable. So sometimes you could see that system dot execute. So now exit like this. When you check here, you could see that this one also have a lot of uh, a lot of functionality. Let's look at this, the system itself. Okay, So if you check system, let's say import 6. So import 6, you could check the 6, and let's look at some of the modules that comes with the 6. So when you check here, you could see that there are lots of information here. So now you see the system file, system.out. Now you can see the platform. So now to identify the platform, you can get your maximum size, that is the large supported length of the container. You can get your hash information, executable, the version. You can do system.version. So this one goes with the version of the interpreter as a string. Okay, you can get the version info. Okay, and then you can get the DDR handle, that is window only. So these are a lot of information that we can also derive from the class. So if you are saying instead of a system.platform, like the way we have down there, we could also do system.preface, system.version. Okay, so system.version info and all those things. So you could see the information that will come from that. So within your system, you can see we have a lot that you can get. Then mostly we use this one a lot when you are running your program, like system.exit. So you can see here, if you are writing the code, and then you want to terminate, so you could just say system.exit. So system.exit will close. Maybe you are writing for Windows platform, maybe you can also develop a desktop application for Python. So if I'm building a desktop application and I want to create a button where when I click on it, it will close the interface, it means that you are going to use system.exit to do that closing for you, because that has. And so when within your terminal, if you want to move from your terminal, you know that we use this one, system exit, because you are already in your terminal. You don't need to have system.exit anymore, because within your terminal it already knows that the this one is for exit. So when you do exit, it automatically it will work for you. So like the way we have here, if I want to move back, okay, I can just do exit like this, and then it will take me back, okay, from my terminal mode. So in the same way, if you are on the interface now here, the only way this one will work for you is that we need to have your system dot, because you are not interacting directly with the kernel, okay, the Python kernel. So that is the system. So this one you could see here, you will be using them a lot. So these are modules, okay, that you can see here. Then get size of, okay, and get trace, okay. So a lot of them for now, just for you to. And then these are the functions that you could also get: the print, display, hook, and all those stuff. So all these ones can be seen in the system, okay. So all these are the information that you can gain from the system. Okay. Okay. So uh, so that is the system. So system information. So now we understand the OS, and then we also understand the system. Okay. So anytime you import system, we know what exactly that we will be getting from it. Okay. Now all these I've talked about it. Now here, which I've already explained to you already. So here you want to get maybe your terminal size and stuff. And when you get it, you know, it comes as what we call a tuple. It comes as a tuple. The reason means that this line simply means that whatever information that is coming from here is coming as a tuple. For instance, let me actually do this for you. So we call this is the double line declaration. So you know, if I assign this one to just, let's say, just column, okay, and then I want to just print this, what this one means that I'm going to receive what we call a tuple. Okay, so if I run this line of code, now you could see that it came as what? os.terminal size, what? Column. And what data type is this? From our previous class, what data type?
It's a something like a dictionary.
No. A dictionary
What?
uses curly braces, right?
What?
A dictionary uses curly braces.
Yeah.
This one, this for dictionary. So which one uses this?
A tuple. A tuple uses.
Okay, a tuple, meaning that the information that is coming here you cannot change, as we realize that tuple cannot be. So a tuple comes like this. So this tells you that the information that is coming here, because it has the column and the the lines, okay. So instead of you maybe assigning it to one, so if you are assigning it to one variable here, then it's going to pull everything to what? One side. Okay, it's going to pull everything to one side. So now you can see that everything is just one, the tuple and everything is as a tuple form. So if I want to just take the column to one variable, and also you declare two variables, so what? Single line declaration. Okay, so you declare a variable, so you can this is another way. Maybe I did not taught you that, so it's opportunity. So you can declare a variable like maybe I can say first name, first underscore name, then you can have last underscore name, okay, and then assign them to a variable. Okay, so I could have them assign it to maybe something like this. It could be a string, so I can have here kin, okay, and then I could have bar, okay, BAH. So in this case, the first one will go to my first name and this one. So if I run this code, right now here, you could see that here nothing will come because I'm not printing. So now if I come and do, let's say print first name, first underscore name, and then I move on down and say print, and I see last underscore name. Okay, in this case it's going to give me those values there. So now, sorry, so now you could see that I have what? Kin and what? Bar. So it's the same thing, but you know that whatever is coming from here is what? It's a string. So if for instance this one wasn't a string and there was something like this, you know, this one is what? When you place information here like this, what data type are you expecting? Like here, if I do something like this, what data type? What
Please,
data
person.
type? What data type is it going to this one?
A string.
This, no, anything within these codes. I think we still
A
remember
two.
a tuple. Okay, a tuple. Okay, so in the tuple, if I remove the first name, let's say this, I remove the last name, and then I'll comment on this one. I'll get back later. I'll just comment on this one, and then I check here. What I'm checking is the data type. Okay, so I'll move on to the type. Okay, what is here?
Tuple.
Tuple. Okay, so in tuple, you realize that inside the tuple, we are having two items. That is the name, and then so if maybe I want to represent each one with a different value. Okay, so that is what we're saying, that instead of this, you could also do first, this is the last underscore name. Okay, so last underscore name, and then I have something like this. Okay, let me take away this. Okay, so what that we are saying is that this information that we have there, each one will be assigned to what? This. That is amazing. So you can see that I have here cane and all those things. So in the same way that we are seeing that when you check the get terminal, now in details is coming out, it's a tuple that is coming out. So in a tuple, we want to represent the column and the weight. Okay, so that is why we give the column and the weight. Okay, so now all these ones, we assign this one to what? The line. So we have this line here. So this one is going to take care of that. So the first one will go and the last one will go. So this is how the whole thing will look like. I hope it's clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you run this one, you will see that it will come like this. Okay. Okay, so that is the tuple. So we call this one a single line what variable declaration. So you can have a multiple variable declaration in just a single line. So you have maybe 4 and just assign it depending on the value that is coming. So if I have maybe 4 items in a tuple, I can assign them individually to a variable, and everything will be assigned. Okay. So that is this when we, I think we've gotten the understanding of it now. Okay, so here we could actually have also explained this one to you. Okay, so you have this. So if I have a file, so let's see, I have a file which the file name is example.txt. That is my file name. And then with this file name, I want to check whether is what is read only. So we have the os.read. Okay, when we were going through, you saw that then we have os.w. Okay, so from the explanation, what value are you guessing? If you see something like this, What do you think this one will be? This line. So it will check before it get this one printed. So what value is here? What data type do you think will come from here? What data type? I hope you can think of Boolean, right?
Yes, please.
So
Yes.
here will be a Boolean. So it will check either if it's true. So this just the file. So this one is just the file that we've installed the file. So now it's going to os.access method. Then it has two arguments. That is the file, and then you check for the Boolean. Either os.read is read. If it's read, so this one means that if it's read, if this one is true, then it's going to add on far is what readable. Then it's also going to check if you check the far and this one is false, os.wk is false, it's not true, then it cannot execute the information here. Okay, it will just skip that. Okay, that is the essence of this code. Okay, so we can actually, but of course, the first thing is you need to make sure that you import your OS model. I already import it, but if you are going to use this, you maybe you want to run this code. The first thing is you have to do what? Import what? OS. So you have to import OS first before you can use OS to get the individual methods that comes within. And then here too, you have to make sure that if this file, for instance, I've not created this file, so definitely if I run this one, you always going to check that if this file actually exists. Okay, so it's checking that if this file actually exists. Of course, I've not created that. Okay, I've not created that. So let's see. Let's run the code again. Now, you realize that nothing came. Who can tell me why? From so far, what you've done. I just ran this code, but I realized that nothing came out. Why? Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Are you with me?
Yes, please.
Yes. I'm seeing that I just ran the code and you realize that nothing came out. I didn't receive any message. Nothing. I'm asking you why.
Uh, that,
You have,
but does the file exist? The example.txt.
no, it doesn't exist.
Uh, then maybe that's why.
It doesn't exist. So now you can see that we are dealing with condition. So because we are not printing anything, if like maybe I'm printing directly far without the condition, then it's going to throw an error, right? Do you get it? So like
Yes.
if I want to see that the far doesn't exist, so maybe I could just bring else else. Okay, so if for instance I have here, that will tell us that the far does not exist. So I can see that else prints example.txt does not what? Does not exist. If I have something like this and I run the code again, now do you see what came?
Yeah. Example.txt does not exist.
Okay. Because everything that we have here is in what? A condition. So first thing, it will check whether this one meet the criteria. So if this one is false, nothing will happen. So now it move on to another one, because this one is just a file that we've assigned to, just a string we assigned to file. So if I'm not printing when you write, nothing will happen. Then it come to the next line of code and check if this condition is true. If it's not true, you check that, oh, it's false. That's why there's nothing here, so you see that's false. If there's nothing, you also see that's false. So in that case, nothing will come at all. So if I have the else, then that will tell you that, hey, because this one doesn't exist. So if we truly want to check this one, let's try and create a file here. Let's create a file here. Let me go to folder and try to see I can create a file. So okay, so I already have some file here, which is band.py. So let's try to use that one rather. So let's see this. So now let's check from here and run this. Let's save this first. Sorry. Do you see it?
Yeah.
So now you can see that file is readable. So now I check that this file, because it's a Python file that I've written that I can run. So now I check that the file is readable, and then the file is what? Writable. So, and then here the file is what? Executable. So in that case, it will not even come to what? The else part, because all the condition has been what? Satisfied. I hope it's clear. So this is how you could check whether a file is. But before you can create a file, that is maybe you are running your own program where you want a file, a specific file to be executable, and that is where this comes in. So now you can create that file. So from here we can create this file, example.txt, okay, with a code. We create this file and we made this file what? Readable. Okay, so in that case this is going to be, and then this one, you set this back to what? Writable. So it means that this file is going to be also what? Writable. So once you have all this one, now you can set this one as what? Readable. You can set this one as what? Writable. Okay, so that is what actually this method means. So if for instance I have this file being created, Now I can just come here and set this condition. Now when this condition has been set, now we can go back to our program and check to see that what that we were doing. So let me see the folder in which I just did the work here. So now I have it inside my document power this. So now I'm just going to create a file, okay, a simple file there. Just let's do this one so you get the understanding. So you add this line of code to where you've created your file, and then you make your file read only or maybe write. Okay, so let's go there. So I'll go to the folder. The folder that I'm having is documents. Okay, so this is the file, the folder. So now I'll create the file here. I'm going to create a file here. So my file that I'll create is the one that we just used. So now I'll come here, a test file. And then I'll give the name that we have the tst.example. Okay, so I've created that file, which is already, if it's now there. So now go to our program here, and then we run this code. Okay, so sorry. So now okay, so now you could see that I've written the code here. So now let's go back to our program, and this time we are going to use, set this one as what, read only, and then write. Okay, so now let's go to our program, the one that we, okay, here. So now I'll change this one to the file. Okay, so now I have this, that example.txt. So now let's check. We want to check if this one is just readable and then the writable. Okay, so now you come here and run this code. Now you can see what we have here.
Readable, writable, and executable.
Okay, so it means that you can execute that file. Okay, so that's what the this one simply means. Okay, so it actually helps us to give a permission to a file. So sometimes you can, like last time I was telling you that if you've made a file something like this, and maybe I install on your machine, so that's what a hacker can hack your machine with code that is executable. So in that case, it should be able to take, depending on the command that you have in that file, it could be able to get all those information. Have you opened a Windows installation file before? Do you have Windows installation file, like operating system? So when you have the operating system, you can open the operating system. There's a file that help us to run. So you can either copy that file. If I copy that file and I'll write a code within that file and you execute, you can execute to do certain things, because Microsoft has already made it that they've given the permission, everything to. So someone can just change that file add certain information, and when you don't know and you run it, they could be able to even pick most of your information. So sometimes it's advisable that for our part of this world, we can just say we know that we are supposed to buy operating system, but then when you get any free operating system you want to use, somebody who want to steal information from you can just buy the operating system and then give it to you free. Then you go to that file that does the automatic installation. So it's this that file that will go through, they install, copy all files and install in your directory and go to everything is done, and then they set the environment for you. Once it's done, then you have your OS. You can also go in the same file, add your code, and then you tell it to do certain things. So once you install that operating system on your machine, now my code will now be working on your machine. So now anything that you have, I can steal. I can take information from you, even though you are giving the fat the OS to people to use for free, but you've altered. So for you as an IT person, me, if you give me OS, I don't want the one that you've burned already on a pen drive and you give that one to me that I should install. I won't use it. I ask you, do you have executor? I will take the file from you. First thing is I'll go and check that place and see that if everything is or the same as Microsoft one, because I know how that file is supposed to look like. So I'll go and check if everything is okay before I can burn it on my pen drive, okay, to install, so that I know that I'm secure. So mostly hackers do that. So if you, now that you are learning, most when you go and any file, sometimes you can get Microsoft Office Premium, everything for free. When you get it, please kindly go through the installation file and check whatever code that is there before you install. If not, sometimes they can add a malware to your file. So when you install it, now it's then go into your operating system, be taking some of that information from your machine. So you could copy all your files. Once you connected to internet, it just copy and send to them. So you will be there and then they will be retrieving all your information. So these are some of the things that actually you need to take note of whilst now you start learning programming. You need to understand all this one. So anytime you are writing any program, actually you know exactly what you are doing. Okay. If I have, let me see, do I have any installation file folder here? Let's see if I have. Let me see.